The White House and Republican governors, they've faced some heavy criticism for states that are reopening, but now blue states are starting to follow suit with very little pushback. California, New York, Colorado, and Washington all slowly starting to lift restrictions, and President Trump is arguing that it is necessary.
If they held people any longer with the shutdowns, and you're going to lose people that way too, and you already have, I'm sure. But between drug abuse and, I mean, they say suicide, a lot of different things. There's no win, just so you know, there's no great win one way or the other.
So, Jesse, I don't really understand how reopening has become a Republican versus Democrat issue, since the virus doesn't discriminate and the lockdown didn't discriminate. It affects all of us. And help me understand that.
Gladly, because we've covered this pretty methodically for the last 2 months, and here's what I've observed. When a Democrat governor locks down, they get praised. When they open things back up, they're ignored. When a Republican governor locks down, they're ignored. And when they open things back up, they're attacked. That tells me two things. The media loves Democrats, and the media loves lockdowns. There you go, Dana. It's called deductive reasoning. I mean, think about it. You had the Governor Kemp in Georgia, who basically said, we're going to open things up nearly 2 weeks ago. And guess what happened? Not everybody died, and the world didn't come to an end. As a matter of fact, the number of cases has slowly declined in 2 weeks. Same thing with Florida. Governor DeSantis, he had a pretty liberal beach policy and county-by-county lockdown approach. They were supposed to be the next New York, big elderly population. Didn't happen. So obviously it's politicized, and I think we all know why.
Yeah, I know. I was being a little facetious. I'm really not that daft, but I was just trying to make the point, Greg, that it really is affecting everybody, and the reopening is affecting everybody as well. I mean, it's in some places it's going to be quite slow, and there's even some businesses like restaurants who are maybe limited to 25% capacity who think, I can't make a profit with 25% capacity, so they might not open at all.
Okay, so this is where you don't go down party lines ideology. You go down adults versus children. This is an issue in which you are facing supremely adult questions. Adults, unlike children, have to discuss risk and benefits every day of their decisions. Children don't. So I have a new law. I call it the SE Cup Law, in honor of the reigning queen of adding nothing to a conversation until it's over. So when Chris Christie says or tries to make the adult point that, hey, these future decisions regarding lockdowns are going to carry a risk of death, then you'll see the cowardly gawker with no skin in the game, again, who makes no adult decisions, will say, he'll be there to pick it off and go, but people will die. You are insensitive to death, and you should go to a crowded place and feed the hungry because you don't care. So that is the childlike answer every time. And I think we could save our viewers a lot of time if we just cancel out these obvious points, like adults know that every death is too much, right? We know that. We also know that opening up is going to increase risk. We also accept and share the risk every day with different actions. So if your argument still lives in that territory, you are a child, and you should not be allowed at the adults' table when we are talking about these decisions. So if you say that there is a risk, the media will accuse you of murder no matter what, because they're children. When the states reopen and the leaders are taking a calculated risk, blue or red states, we have to give them the leeway and not accuse them of murder, because that's infantile, because we know we're adults. Yeah. We've lived in these lives. We understand risk and benefit, so do not listen to the children.
Juan, what about the fact that there's been a lot of moving of the goalposts, maybe from the left and the media, in some cases, where the goal of flattening the curve was so that you didn't overwhelm the hospital systems. And if that goal was achieved and now you go to reopen, the goal is not to shut down until we have a vaccine, right?
No, not at all. In fact, I think the goal is, as you were saying, to make sure that the hospitals maintain capacity, but also, and I think this is really critical, speaking at the adult table, if I might, that we have public trust. public trust, because you can reopen things, but if the public doesn't trust that they won't get sick, and that's not necessarily mean they'll be hospitalized, Dana, or that they'll die, but that they won't get sick, they won't trust you and come out to your restaurant. I think I saw numbers today, 80% say they won't go to a movie theater, 70% not willing to go to the gym or a restaurant, 60% not even willing to go to a retail clothing store. So I think you have to understand it's about engendering public trust in terms of how public leaders speak to the people. And if it's all cheerleading, that's not trust.
Dagan, do businesses have maybe a role as well as they, like we talked to the Starbucks CEO today, finding some mitigation measures to try to engender that trust with consumers so that they will feel comfortable coming into the shops?
They already are. There's a Shake Shack that's open right down the street from here, so they're about protecting their employees and the customers. But I just want to highlight something that we've known all along, and we heard it over and over again. We must protect the most vulnerable in this country. We must protect the most at risk. And in terms of public trust, that is not something that happened in New York State. New York State in March mandated that nursing homes had to take COVID-19 patients back in that were discharged from hospitals. And today we found out that 1,700 previously undisclosed deaths at nursing homes and adult care facilities happened in this state. More than 4,800 elderly people have died from COVID-19 in nursing homes since March the 1st. And I just find this heartbreaking and almost malicious what they have done to people who we should have cared for with the greatest heart and the greatest head. And it's disgusting, and I think I hope we talk about that.
Yes, and I read that like if that's was your wife or your husband, your grandmother, your mother, your sister, they had about another 10 years to live on average. But for those who got COVID-19 and went back to the nursing homes,
and
that was unfortunately a big result.
And the state was warned by doctor upon doctor about the devastating consequences of this, and they did it anyway.